Hi there. Thanks for joining Trigo's webinar. We are rent performance reports and automating of reference checks for resident screening. Would love to share more. We're trusted by some of the largest operators in the industry. We have a national presence in North America as well, in Canada, in the lower 48. We're active in almost all sectors of residential real estate. We've bolded here some of our core competencies: manufactured housing and institutional multifamily. We also have a pretty large presence in SFR and single family. We're trusted by some of the largest partners in the industry, some of the largest third-party managers, as well as public REITs. We're telling you what you already know, but there's a new normal across the residential real estate ecosystem with bad debt, fraud, and evictions on the rise. That's due to a number of macro and micro reasons, and it can get pretty market specific, but by and large, you're seeing it all over the country. Part of the reason for that is the macro reasons of housing affordability, just the cost of renting far outpacing the growth in wages over the last several years, and then some of the COVID overhang. But one thing that everybody agrees on is that there's one way to combat and mitigate some of that risk, and that starts with what you do on the front end with resident screening. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Trigo does not replace your current resident screening. Whoever you're using, we encourage you to keep using them. We're an added layer of security on top, a supplement, not a replacement. What your screening provider is doing today is probably doing three primary things, maybe a little bit more, but definitely three primary things: pulling a FICO score credit report, a background check, and eviction courthouse records to check their criminal and eviction records. Keep using those. They work, but they have major blind spots. You will catch a lot of things with those. We encourage you to keep using them as first line of defense, but they are imperfect. We like to say that there's no silver bullet when it comes to any single data set, and Trigo fixes those blind spots. With more data, you get more security and higher NOI by stopping some of these things. And so we like to say, with a better fishing net, you catch more fish. So what are some of those blind spots? Let's dig in here. Did you know that less than 3% of landlords report to the credit bureaus? So FICO scores include a litany and wealth of credit card data and utilities data, but they don't tell you how good of a renter someone is. The credit bureaus do not have this data at scale, and that's by and large because most landlords don't report to the credit bureaus. Then secondarily, less than 20% of landlord-tenant disputes are settled in court. So it's sort of a false sense of security to check an eviction record. It looks something more like this. Hey, John, you owe me $5,000. Pay me half and be out by the first of the month. Let's shake on it. That does not get picked up in any data set except for Trigo's. And did you know that most evictions take 1 to 12 weeks to show up in a county database? So if there is a court-level judgment, there's a manual administrative clerk that actually has to scan and upload that to the county website. Oftentimes, and we see this all the time, if there's a court-level judgment, someone will apply to your community, and it's not on the county courthouse record yet for that very reason, and they will apply and oftentimes get approved and move into your community before you even know. In contrast, Trigo retrieves the data with over 80% success rates. That's industry leading. We get this data right away, and it's real time, in contrast to the lagging indicators of FICO and these other courthouse records. So let's get into it. What are some examples? On the screen here, you see two separate reports. We get these all the time. This is what our formatting looks like. On the left-hand side, you see someone that was fully approved by the resident screening provider that our customer used. So this person would have moved into the community, but they were recently evicted with a $2,700 outstanding balance owed and 9 late payments out of the past 13 months of residence. This was completely missed by their screening provider. So we were that safety net that caught that. On the right-hand side, different flavor. This person is not getting evicted, but they owe $3,500. They have major damage to the apartment of $3,800. Again, they would not re-rent to this individual. Again, this applicant was fully approved by their resident screening provider. And with Trigo as the added layer of security, we tracked this down, and they were subsequently issued adverse action. We have industry-leading completion rates. So how do we do what we do? We complete reference checks over 80% of the time. In contrast, a lot of scale institutional managers and owners are not even attempting reference checks because they're too difficult, but the folks that are maybe make one phone call, they leave a voicemail, maybe two, give it the old college try, but that leads to less than 10% success rates, oftentimes near 0% success rates. We have over 80% success rates in 72 hours, and we get over half these done in less than 24 hours. Our average completion time is 22 to 24 hours, and that includes non-business hours when folks are sleeping. How do we do that? We just give you a peek behind the hood. We've built a lot of proprietary software. We have omni-channel outreach, which is a fancy word for we do automated text and email, and we also have a domestic US-based call center. Behind the curtain, what we're doing there is we've built a lot of complex software logic that tells us exactly what to do and when. If we have enough data, If we have one data set, if we have the reference's phone number but not their email, how do we track that down? We've also got a proprietary data set with sort of a network effect of the contact information for most landlords in America. And that network effect grows as Trigo grows and builds that database. So we are very efficient at tracking these down. Oftentimes, this can be 8 to 10 touch points, meaning 8 to 10 emails, texts, calls with the applicant and the landlord reference to track these down. What we do know is that you can't just fire off an email. There are some screening providers that say, hey, we hit them with a drip of 3 emails over 36 hours. Those emails will go ignored 99.9% of the time. You must interface with the landlord. We've got a lot of secret sauce and learnings where we've built the technology to actually track these down. And that's how our rates are so high. You just press an easy button and let Trigo do all the hard work for chasing down references. And then we catch what we call a lot of red flags or negative signal. In doing so, when you track this down at scale, it's incredible what you will see. The expected NOI increase per 1,000 units is $100,000. This is driven and proven by Trigo's historical performance data for other customers. And we've got over a year of performance data on tens of thousands of units. That's a 10 to 30 times ROI based on our pricing, which is very impactful and the quickest way to increase your property value and drive value for your clients. Here's a real life example. This is our internal ROI dashboard. This is our mission control for a customer. We redacted this, but you'll see we've saved one customer over $150,000 in less than 6 months. That's a 33 times ROI based on what they paid us and what we believe we've saved them. That's 16 evictions filed that we caught. Again, all of these folks were fully approved by their screening provider. Over $65,000 of balance owed and over 1,000 late payment months that went undetected, as well as folks that they would not re-rent to, unauthorized pets or tenants, property damage. And you can see we're very conservative with our assumptions and only ascribe $3,000 to the cost of an average eviction. The average actually national cost is $7,000 to $8,000. So we believe this is even understated. Here's another case study with an institutional owner of over 900 units. When we stepped in over 6 months ago, they had a pretty troubled portfolio, almost double-digit 10% bad debt and almost 2% evictions. We did what's called a cohort analysis. After 6 months, we compared all of the applicants that have been approved using Trigo as an add-on to their current residence screening and everybody who predated Trigo. And with that cohort, we have about 2% bad debt, so a 5 times reduction, so 500% reduction and near zero evictions. Knock on wood, actually not near zero, knock on wood. That equates to about $200,000 estimated annualized savings or 14 times ROI. In another case study, we actually caught 6 evictions for a customer in 3 weeks. Keep in mind, all 6 of these applicants would have moved in. They were fully approved by their screening provider. FICO scores and courthouse records are great, but they have major blind spots, as we said, just to reiterate. And so with the average national cost of an eviction of greater than $7,000, that's $42,000 in NOI with those 6 evictions alone. And if you apply a 6% cap rate to that, which is how the owner will look at it and the investors will look at it, that's a $700,000 increase in property value just from catching those 6 evictions for those folks who would have moved in. So we helped them dodge some major bullets there. Similarly, we saved $16,000 in less than a week for a 300-unit Class B property. They just paid us $165, and we caught 2 folks that were, in both instances, had not paid rent in 10 to 12 months. These folks had $7,000 to $10,000 outstanding balances with their current landlord, again, fully approved by the resident screening provider, but we caught it. And the property owner said, whoa, guys, we weren't catching these before. Similarly, we've talked a lot about negative signal, but there's also positive signal. So as we alluded to at the top of the presentation, most landlords don't report to the bureaus. 93% of people across the U.S. pay their rent on time, but get 0 credit for it. So let me get this straight. To raise your credit score to prove you're financially responsible, you have to buy stuff on a credit card for 19% interest, but your $2,000 a month rent doesn't change your credit score at all. It's sort of an injustice. And so what Trigo does by performing these reference checks, a lot of folks are very pleased because they have a pristine renting track record with the single largest expenditure in their lives. And when you get into manufactured housing or Class B, C, or affordable housing, a lot of these folks have what's called thin credit, not bad credit, not to be confused or conflated with bad credit. And when someone has thin credit, it just means they don't have many trade lines. They didn't have a credit card or a student loan or a loan of any type to build a track record. And so what FICO and the credit bureaus do is they just give them a low credit score. And if they had been tracking their rent, many of these folks have been renting for 5, 10, 15 years, they would have a good credit. So this is this increases their effective credit score. And so if someone's on the borderline and maybe they don't have the right credit score cutoff that you'd like, or they have unpredictable non-W2 income that's hard to judge, well, maybe if you get a great reference check from Trigo, you'll be willing to give them a shot. Similarly, we're a massive time savings. This is from a top 3 property manager, a community manager, said, this is going great. This makes my job so much easier. We don't have to check references anymore. They come back faster, and collections are definitely improving, and it frees up my time to turn units. So we don't want your teams focusing on any of this administrative clerical work that's mundane, tedious, and very repetitive. Doing all these phone calls. They don't want to be tethered to a desk, remembering to do all of these reference check phone calls and emails and texts all day. They want to be out doing more revenue generating activity, filling units, marketing, leasing. So this frees up their time to do so. The opportunity cost of their time is very high. And then 24/7 support, sort of white glove service. We give the direct email and cell phone. These are cell phone contact information for all of our clients. I'm Sam, the CEO, my co-founder Abe, the CTO, who's built a lot of the software. And then we also have support at trigodata.com. That's available 24/6. We are operating fully on Saturdays. We're off Sundays just because most landlords are off for the reference checks, but we're fully working on Saturdays, and support is available, obviously always during business hours and beyond. And without further ado, thank you so much for taking the time to learn more about Trigo. You can book a demo here on our website, and we'd be pleased to share more and show you more about our product. Thanks so much for the time.